Winter is upon us. What does that mean in Metro Detroit? Let's get into it. Hey guys, how you doing? Derek here from M1 Realty. I'm the broker, owner, founder of the company. Started in 2014, just myself and a laptop up in the third floor of an office suite here in Ferndale, Michigan. Fast forward to today, we've got a storefront right at 9 and Woodward. We're in the heart of downtown Ferndale, and I've got the biggest, baddest, best real estate team in the city of Ferndale. Got an all-star team. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, rent, whatever you need, we've got you covered. We even do property management now. So here we are in the middle of winter in Detroit, Michigan, the heart of the Midwest. What does that mean? It's important to know whether you're looking to just invest here and live somewhere else, or if you're looking to move here long term. You should probably know kind of what goes into the wintertime here in Michigan, because depending on weather conditions, it could take a little longer than normal to get normal tasks accomplished. So let's start off just by talking about the weather itself. It is completely unpredictable. You have to kind of be prepared for anything, sometimes within the span of 24 hours. Case in point, the past week here has been in single digits. We had a pretty good snowfall, not huge, like 3 or 4 inches, but then it froze solid. It rained on top of that, then it froze, so we had just a layer of thick ice. Then it snowed on top of the ice, and it was just frigid, bone-chillingly cold, single digits, terrible. And then fast forward to, a couple days ago, now it started raining, now it's 40 degrees and rainy, everything melted, and we're still in the middle of January. So the moral of the story is, you just kind of have to be prepared for anything. We just kind of take it as it comes. There's not a whole lot you can do about it. If it's going to snow 10 inches, it's going to snow 10 inches, and no amount of complaining or prepping or praying or anything is going to change that. It's just going to do what it does. And typically what happens here, we'll get a snowfall, and then it just gets like cold and dry. So, when that happens, the snow dries out. It goes from thick, wet snow to just stuff that blows away. So that doesn't happen like immediately. So that's over the course of like several days that happens. But typically speaking, when we get dumped on, you're not going anywhere. So don't even plan. If you have an appointment, like, it's going to get canceled. It just is what it is. You won't go anywhere because you can't. You won't be able to get your car out of the driveway. The roads won't be plowed. We've got really good road clearing crews here. And depending on the city, some are better than others. Obviously, Ferndale is top notch, but they're hardworking guys. But they can only do so many streets per hour. You know what I mean? So typically speaking, when we know we're going to get a huge snowfall, they'll get out there early and start laying down salt on the roads. They'll start, as it starts snowing, they'll plow just to keep up with it. But it's a process. I mean, the main roads go first, and then the snow emergency routes go next, and then all of the residential streets. So, I mean, in Ferndale, I've been in Ferndale almost 20 years. I've been here 18 years. So the biggest snowfall I can remember, it was only a matter of like a few hours after it started snowing that the first plow truck came down my street. And they do a pretty good job of keeping the streets plowed, and most cities around here they do. But you're going to run into instances where it takes a little time, and sometimes the snowfall is so intense that it's snowing so many inches per hour that the crews just can't keep up with it. And when that's the case, you're stuck in your house. It just is what it is. You're never going to see some, crazy scenes like down south where they're buying up bread and milk and eggs, and it's a whole thing. We know what we're doing here. We just deal with it. It is what it is. We know it's not going to be that long before everything is cleared and or everything melts. So it just is what it is. But moral of the story is just be ready for anything. And I should say, almost every city that I know of around here does have an ordinance that after it snows, you've got usually 24 to 48 hours to shovel your sidewalk too, because we need to make sure that the postal service is able to deliver mail and people are able to walk around town without slipping and falling and breaking their necks. So just keep that in mind when you own a property here, that it's your responsibility to make sure the sidewalks are shoveled and cleared. Now, if you own a rental property here, every lease that I use anyway, and any lease that I know of says puts it on the tenant to do that. But we need to make sure that we need to make sure the tenant's doing what they're supposed to do, because certain cities, if they're going to write a ticket, they'll write it to the tenant if you register that tenant for that property, but not all of them. So you don't want to be getting a ticket in the mail. Like, it has to be specified in that lease that if that happens, it's the tenant's responsibility to pay. So it would just easier for everybody involved just to establish those ground rules right from the beginning, and just let them know when it snows, shovel your sidewalk. So aside from that, everything's, it is what it is. It's something that we deal with. And when you are shoveling, I always find it best to just get out there every couple hours and just do a couple of passes and just keep on top of it, rather than wait till you have 6, 7, 8 inches of snow. That's when heart attacks happen. That's when that's when you're really exerting yourself. It's so much easier just to get out there and move a couple inches of snow off the sidewalk. Piece of cake. Way better than wait until it's done. So now let's talk about what kind of clothing you need to wear in Metro Detroit in the wintertime. And again, you just need to prep for everything, because you just never know. Snowstorms can happen out of nowhere. It's 40 degrees and rainy right now. That doesn't mean it can't drop 20 degrees and start dumping snow in 2 hours. Crazier things have happened. So, number one, you're going to just be practical. You're pretty much going to dress for comfort and not fashion. I think it's an old Norwegian saying that there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only poor clothing choices. So your best bet is to layer in the wintertime, especially if you're not used to this kind of climate. It takes a few weeks to adjust. It really does. If you were in Miami, Florida, or Phoenix, Arizona, or LA, and you get on a plane and you land here in Detroit, you're not going to be a happy camper. So it's going to take a while for your body to adjust and get used to it. For example, at this point, of the winter, it was, I think last night it was 22 degrees or something like that, and me and my kid, we just went out in hoodies. I mean, it's nothing. It is what it is, but we're used to it. So if you're coming from somewhere where it's 70 degrees, you're not going to be used to it. You're going to be hating life. So layer up. That's the most important thing I can stress. Hats, gloves, boots. Even now, even though it's rainy, it's still slushy and sloppy and gross, and your boots aren't the most stylish thing in the world, but they're going to be the most practical thing to wear. But aside from that, have a pair of gloves with you, have a hat, and just dress in layers. And that way, if it warms up, you take some layers off, you're good to go. Gets cold, you're not going to be dying of frostbite. So next, we'll talk about what kind of vehicle you need to drive, because that's a question I get a lot. Because people that don't come from cold weather climates, they're not sure. Do I need a 4-wheel drive vehicle if I'm going to be driving around the Detroit area? More, kind of generally speaking, this is the flattest place on the planet. So, it's not as important. I know, when I used to live in Arizona, there'd be times a year where if you're trying to get to and from Flagstaff in the wintertime, because that's up in the mountains, you need to have chains on your tires or have snow tires. We don't really need any of that stuff. We're not dealing with situations where your car will go skidding if you hit a patch of ice, so just drive carefully, but you're not going to be going up and down inclines or anything like that around here for the most part. So you don't really have to worry about having a high clearance vehicle or a 4-wheel drive or having special tires or anything like that. That being said, having a 4-wheel drive vehicle does have its advantages. I mean, you're going to be able to get around a lot easier in a lot worse, road conditions. But generally speaking, I've never owned one. I've driven them before, and they're awesome. But I've never owned a 4-wheel drive vehicle because I don't really have need for one. But I guess maybe if you're out in the sticks where they don't plow the streets as frequently or as often, or maybe at all in some instances, you're going to need to have a higher clearance vehicle or something that can get around. But I'm talking in Metro Detroit in the city. I mean, it's really only a day or two after a huge snowfall before every street is fine to drive on. So we use a ton of salt here. So that's what we use to melt the snow and the ice. So I mean, unless it gets, I think it stops being effective when it gets to negative 10 degrees or something like that. And it happens here, but it's not super prevalent. I don't think it's been below zero yet all year. So We've gotten down into the single digits. We haven't gone negative, and we'd have to get quite a bit colder than that before the before the salt stops working and melting the ice. So generally speaking, we're good to go there. So that's what you're going to deal with. Now, when you are driving around in the wintertime and there's salt everywhere, if you own your car, if you don't have a rental car, do what I do and just get a monthly membership to any car wash, because that way I can go through the car wash every single day if I want, and it's going to cost me like $25 a month instead of paying $6, $7, $8 every time you go, because you want to get that salt off your car because it will corrode it over time. But in general, you don't need any kind of specialized vehicle to get around here. You're going to be fine just with a rear wheel drive, just regular car. That's not a high clearance vehicle. And then the last thing that people ask is, what is there to do in winter? I'm not going to lie, this is kind of the worst time of year. There's not as much to do, but there are definitely winter activities, kind of weather permitting. So, ice fishing is a huge thing. We've got a ton of lakes here. We've got some great ice fishing. That being said, you want to make sure that you are very confident in the ice conditions before you step out on the ice. So I was this didn't happen here in Michigan, but I was in Ohio at the beginning of the week, and apparently there was a bunch of people ice fishing, and the ice flow broke off and started just like drifting into Lake Erie, and they had to get rescued by helicopter. So that happens here as well. So just know what you're doing before you go out on the ice. Like, I'm not an ice fisherman, so I don't know the exact what to tell you, but there's definitely easy ways to find out when is a good time and when isn't. I would just use a rule of thumb: if you see other people out there fishing, it's probably safe to go out there and do it. The other thing, there's a lot of skiing. Like, we are the flattest place on the planet, but there are ski hills here. I won't offend mountains by calling them mountains, because they're not. But we've got man-made hills that are a few hundred feet high where you can go skiing. And there's several of them right around Metro Detroit. So that's definitely an activity: skiing and snowboarding, ice skating, same deal. But you have to kind of like take into the weather conditions, kind of play into it as well. Like last week was almost too cold to go and do that stuff. I mean, you could do it if you bundle up and layer up, like I said. And today everything's melting, so like there's no ice skating to be had outside. I mean, you can go to any of the 100 indoor ice arenas here and you're good to go. But you're not going to be ice skating on a frozen lake now because it's 40 degrees, everything's melty and mushy, and not a great idea to be out on a lake or a pond. So take that with again, use your head, use your judgment, and weather permitting, those are some awesome activities to do. Cross country skiing, snowmobiling, the whole 9 yards. There are things to do here in the wintertime that are outdoor activities. You have to kind of go when Mother Nature lets you. And then this is completely anecdotal, but I think the stats will bear this out too. Is our winters have been getting more and more mild, and I'll use the word mild loosely, because there's nothing mild about 2 degrees with a wind chill of -10, and that's never fun. But that being said, we're just getting like periodic storms and cold snaps and things throughout the winter. Normally we wouldn't see 40 degrees for an extended period of time like we are right now in the middle of January. It's traditionally we'll be colder than that. Everything will stay frozen, but here we are. Chalk it up to what you will. But it's definitely seems to be trending that way. And that being said, it was 2013 or 2014 we had the polar vortex, so that wasn't that long ago. That was the coldest I've ever experienced in my life here. It was -35 overnight one day. It was unbelievably cold. And then we had I think we went 8 weeks that winter without it ever getting above zero. So I mean, it can still happen. It just, the last several winters haven't been that way. It's been kind of like it'll get cold, then it'll warm up, get cold again, warm up, is what it is. So that's just what we're dealing with here. So I guess the best thing I can say is just be ready for anything, except for 70 degrees, because we ain't going to get that. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Those are my main pointers for existing here in the wintertime. If you do have any other questions about anything, I've lived here all my life except for 5 years when I was smart and moved to Phoenix. But I can help you out with anything you need to know for any season, but specifically in the winter. Just give me a call or text anytime, 586-491-5622. You can also reach me at 248-561-6155. Shoot me an email, dwerenka@m1realty.net. Or I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it, I'm on it. So just shoot me a DM, I'll respond quick. And again, thanks so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate it. Hope this helps. If there's anything I can do for you, reach out anytime. We'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Go Lions.